Have you ever dreamed of a palace that never sleeps? Imagine doors so grand they shine like the moon, yet they refuse to close, as if the building itself is awake and listening. In the desert city of Nur Bazar, people spoke in soft voices about such a place. They said the wind brought whispers from those open halls, whispers of forgotten kings who still wanted to be heard. Some called it a blessing, others called it a curse. Most people tried not to look at the hill where the palace stood, with its gates wide like a question. Zara did not have the time to be afraid of questions. She sold tea at dawn and fixed old carpets after sunset. Her hands knew the language of stitches and steam. She lived with her little brother Samir in a narrow room above the copper market. Their parents were gone, and the rent was hungry. Every coin needed a purpose. Still, when the wind changed and carried the palace whispers through the bazaar, Zara looked up from her kettle. The sound was not words exactly. It was like a memory trying to remember itself. "Don't stare," warned old Farid, the spice seller. "Curiosity is a rope. It pulls you until you forget who holds the other end." "I will not be pulled," Zara said, though her heart felt a gentle tug. That day, a strange customer came to her stall. He wore a coat patched with cloth from 100 journeys and carried a bundle of old keys tied with blue thread. He bought a small clay cup of mint tea and held it between his palms like a warm bird. "You are the girl who listens," he said. "I listen to my customers," she replied. "That is how I keep them. But you are also listening to the hill." He nodded toward the palace. "You hear the doors that will not close?" Zara pretended to laugh. "Everyone hears them." "Not everyone hears the difference between a warning and an invitation," the man said. He placed one key on her counter. It was iron but strangely light, shaped like a leaf. "For when you are ready." "Ready for what?" "For a story that wants a listener." He smiled, paid with a small gold coin that was too bright for ordinary pockets, and disappeared into the crowd as if the market swallowed him. That night, the wind tasted like cinnamon and old rain. Zara climbed the stairs to the roof with Samir, who liked to watch the stars. The palace on the hill seemed closer than before, its balconies glowing with a faint pearl light. The doors stood open as always, but now they looked like mouths forming silent words. "Do the kings still live there?" Samir asked. "Only in stories," Zara said. "And stories only live if we feed them." "We should bring them tea," he said, serious and hopeful as children often are. Zara smiled, yet sleep did not catch her easily. The key lay on her table, shining in the moonlight. She told herself she would return it to the strange man if she ever saw him again. But her fingers kept reaching for it, tracing the leaf shape, feeling a warmth that did not come from the night. Before dawn, she packed her copper kettle, 3 cups and a sack of bread. "Only a short walk," she told herself. "I will stand at the bottom of the hill. I will see the palace with my own eyes when the city is quiet. Then I will come back." She left a note for Samir and set out, the leaf key hanging on a string around her neck. The desert wind met her like an old friend with a secret. The streets were empty, and every step sounded too loud. When she reached the hill, the sand was fine as powder, and it moved like water under her feet. The palace seemed to breathe. The great doors were taller than the date palms of the royal garden, carved with stories of kings and queens who had ridden across the sky on carpets of cloud. They were open, yes, but not careless. They were open with intention, like a teacher opening a book. Zara stood at the threshold and poured herself courage from the kettle of her heart. "Just one step," she whispered. "Just one breath." She walked inside. The air was cool, touched by the smell of forgotten flowers. Lanterns hung from the ceiling like trapped stars. In the center of the hall lay a pool as still as a polished mirror. At the far end, a door moved slightly, not to close but to beckon. And then she heard it clearly, the voice inside the wind. "Welcome, listener." Zara was not sure if the word came from the water, the walls, or the key against her chest. She turned ready to run, but the tile floor beneath her feet shifted into a pattern, a path made of light. It led toward a small doorway that seemed too narrow for fear to enter. Another sound reached her, soft and quick, the steps of a boy. "Zara," Samir's voice echoed. He had followed her up the hill. He slipped through the doorway with the easy boldness of a child. The path of light accepted him. "I brought the blue cup," he panted, showing the smallest cup from her stall. "Kings may like the small cup best." Zara wanted to scold him, to drag him back to safety, but the palace spoke again, not with words, but with a feeling that wrapped around both of them. "You are two halves of one key. Together, doors are honest." Something moved near the pool. Not a person, a shimmer. It took the shape of a woman woven from sand and moonlight, thin as smoke, strong as a promise. Her eyes were the color of deep wells. "Who are you?" Zara asked, voice steady because she knew Samir was listening. "I am keeper of the doors," the figure said. "I remember those who forget themselves." "Why won't the doors close?" Samir asked. "Aren't you cold?" The keeper's smile was kind and a little sad. "The doors cannot close until a story is finished. Our kings left a tale half-spoken. It haunts the night like a note held too long. Someone must listen to the end." "What does this have to do with us?" Zara asked, though the key against her chest grew warm. "You carry the leaf key," the keeper said. "It opens what grows from endings." The keeper moved her hand in a slow circle, and ripples crossed the mirror pool. From each ripple a picture rose like steam. A king laying his crown on the floor, a queen planting a seed in the courtyard, a line of workers carrying water from the far well, a scribe with a trembling hand unable to finish writing the last line of a book. The pictures faded, but the feeling stayed, unfinished, restless, asking. "Our last rulers were not bad," the keeper said gently. "But they were proud. A promise is only strong when it is spoken and kept by the smallest person, not just the highest." On the final night, the kings argued over 3 promises. They left before they agreed. The doors stayed open to wait for the ending. "What promises?" Zara asked, touching the leaf key. "First," said the keeper, raising one finger, "to keep a door open for the weary so they can rest without fear. Second, to carry water to the place that thirsts the most, even if no one sees you. Third, to speak a hard truth in front of a power that can punish you." Her eyes deepened like wells catching starlight. "If these are done by honest hands, the story completes itself. Then the palace may sleep, and the city may breathe." Samir leaned over the pool. "We can help. I can carry water. I am small but fast." Zara wanted to laugh and then to cry, because she knew he meant it. "We barely have enough for ourselves," she said quietly. "And the warden of taxes watches even our breath. If he sees us near the palace, he will say we steal air." "The warden is only a shadow painted by fear," the keeper replied. "But shadows are heavy when you carry them alone. Take the key where the palm trees whisper. When you use it with courage, it will open what needs opening." The leaf key warmed against Zara's skin. She felt the tug again, soft and certain. "What if we fail?" "Then you will have walked a road made for you," the keeper said. "Even a wrong step can teach the dance." They left the hall through the narrow door. The path of light moved like a quiet river beneath their feet, guiding them into a courtyard where date palms leaned toward one another like old friends. At the center stood a locked gate of bronze, simple compared to the grand doors but stubborn as a mule. When Zara lifted the leaf key, it seemed to grow lighter still, as if the air held it up. She pressed it into the lock. The sound it made was like a seed cracking open. Beyond the gate lay a small garden, long forgotten. Dry petals covered old stone benches. In the far corner, a thin thread of water trickled from a broken lion's mouth into a shallow basin. The water was clear and sweet, but barely enough to fill a child's palm. Samir touched it and smiled at the coolness. "This is the shortest river I have ever seen." Zara looked at the leaf key. A tiny green sprout had appeared near the handle, delicate and proud. "Keeper said it opens what grows from endings," she murmured. Maybe it turned a lock into a seed. Samir wandered among the benches and found a small clay jar with a faded mark of the royal sun. Inside lay 3 palm seeds and a strip of dyed cloth with a simple map, a line from the palace garden to the old thirst. a place beyond the city wall where the ground cracked like lips. "The second promise," he said, eyes bright. "Eyes, carry water to the place that thirsts the most." Zara's heart twisted. The old thirst was where debtors were forced to dig for a new well under the eye of Warden Marwan. People went there with hope and returned with backs like broken bows. She remembered Farid whispering that the warden sold the city's well water to travelers at triple price, and he liked citizens too thirsty to argue. "If we go there, Marwan will see us," she said. "Then we will wear the sand as our cloak," Samir said, trying to sound brave. They filled the clay jar with as much water as the little lion would give, and Zara hid it in her satchel with the seeds. As they left the garden, a movement caught her eye. A door at the side of the courtyard opening to a low stair, the air beyond smelling like ink and stone. The path of light curled toward it for a moment, then dimmed, as if unsure. Curiosity tugged her hand. "Just a glance," she told Samir. They stepped down into a chamber lined with niches. Inside each niche lay a rolled scroll tied with blue thread, dusty but not forgotten. At the center stood a writing desk with a copper lamp shaped like a lotus bud. Without thinking, Zara touched the lamp. It warmed and opened, not with fire but with a soft glow like dawn folded into a flower. Words rose from the light and floated in the air. Names, jobs, debts, dreams, all written in careful script. Zara saw her own name drift past, Zara bint Hadi, followed by a number, the exact rent she owed next month. Her chest tightened. Then another line appeared, credit owed to Zara, 1 gold coin left by a traveler at dawn. "The man with the key," she breathed. "He paid too much." More words formed and a last line shimmered faintly. "Owner of all records, Warden Marwan." Her blood ran cold. Samir touched her sleeve. "Is this magic a friend?" Before she could answer, a shape grew from the lamp. A figure made of ink and daylight, tall, gentle, with a pen for a crown. Not a genie of wishes, but a scribe of truth. "I bind what is spoken and record what is hidden," the figure said in a voice like turning pages. "I speak when asked with clean hands. I want to know if our city suffers because of the warden," Zara whispered, though fear scratched her throat. The scribe dipped a finger into the light and wrote in the air. "Yes," it said simply. "He keeps doors closed with debt and thirst. Your palace keeps doors open, waiting for someone to speak." Zara felt the weight of the third promise. Speak a hard truth in front of a power that can punish you. Her knees softened. "How can I speak when he can take our home?" The scribe folded its hands. "Truth does not cancel fear. It sits beside it like a friend who will not leave." Zara thought of Samir's thin shoulders, the tiny jar of water, the 3 seeds, the leaf key now sprouting green. She made a plan with the quiet stubbornness that had kept her family fed. First water, then seeds, then truth. When they emerged from the palace, dawn was stretching pink fingers across the sky. The bazaar began to stir. Zara hurried to her stall, brewed tea for the first customers, and secretly filled 2 more jars from her own water jug. She sold cups, smiled, nodded, and pretended her heart was not racing. Farid watched her with the careful eyes of someone who remembers everything. "You look like a person walking a bridge you cannot see," he said softly. "I have to carry water," she replied, surprising herself with her honesty. "To the old thirst." Farid's mouth tightened. "The warden counts every drop, but I have a dust-colored cloak that even the sun forgets. Take it, and take this old cart. It squeaks like a cricket, but it will carry your jars." "Why help me?" she asked. "Because my bones remember a time when doors stayed open for the weary," he said. "I would like to see that time again before my bones become dust." Zara wrapped herself in the muted cloak and hid the jars under a pile of frayed carpets. Samir took the smallest jar inside a rolled rug, proud as a soldier carrying a banner. They pushed the cart toward the city gate as the sun climbed. The guards glanced at them and yawned. Poor carpets had no value in a rich man's mind. Beyond the wall, the land fell into tired cracks. Men and women with dry lips and tired eyes chipped at the ground with iron tools. Warden Marwan sat under a silk canopy, his face smooth as polished bone, counting water skins like a merchant counts coins. His banner showed a shut door. Zara's mouth went dry. She felt the scribe's words on her skin like ink. Truth sits beside fear. She pressed the cart's handle and walked into the broken earth where thirst had a voice. The diggers stopped their shovels when they saw the cart. The squeak of its wheel cut through the desert's silence like a cry of hope. Eyes followed Zara and Samir as they pulled it forward, covered in carpets, their shadows trembling in the heat. Zara felt every gaze land on her like a question. The warden raised his hand and the workers froze. "Who brings carpets to the desert?" Marwan asked, his voice slick with suspicion. His robe shimmered with embroidery of closed doors. He sipped from a silver cup that dripped condensation while the diggers licked cracked lips. Zara bent in a respectful bow, keeping her eyes on the dust. "I repair carpets, my lord. The desert is a harsh market, but even here men must pray and sleep." Marwan's gaze narrowed. "Lift them. Show me." Samir clutched her sleeve, whispering, "The water." "Trust me," Zara murmured back. She pulled the carpets aside slowly, revealing only the rolled one with Samir's small jar inside. She unrolled it, letting the smallest jar tumble out. "I bring this for the weary," she said clearly, and her voice, though shaking, carried. The workers' eyes widened. One whispered hoarsely, "Water." Marwan's face darkened. "You dare break the law of measure? Only I may give water beyond the city walls. Guards." Two soldiers stepped forward. Samir leapt in front of the jar, tiny arms spread wide. "It's for them," he cried. "They are thirsty. Why should doors close on water?" A murmur ran through the diggers. The phrase rang like a bell. Why should doors close on water? Marwan stood, tall and cold. "Because the city is mine, and mine alone to feed." He gestured to the guards. "Take them." Before the soldiers reached, Zara drew out the second jar, holding it high. Her cloak fell back, and the light struck her face. "You call yourself ruler," she said, her voice carrying with sudden strength. "But you are a thief of thirst. The palace doors will not close until someone speaks. Hear me, all of you. Marwan keeps you thirsty so your tongues cannot argue. He keeps you poor so your backs cannot stand. He writes your debts, but he forgets his own promise to guard the weary." Gasps broke from the workers. Whispers spread faster than sand on wind. "She speaks truth. She speaks truth." Marwan's face twisted with rage. "Silence her!" he bellowed, and then something stirred beneath the earth. The crackled ground shook. From the clay jar in Zara's hands, water spilled not in drops but in streams, clear and endless. It raced across the broken soil, filling the cracks, rising cool around the workers' feet. Gasps turned to laughter, to cries of joy, to hands lifted in prayer. The leaf key on Zara's chest glowed. She pulled out the last jar and smashed it on the stone. The 3 palm seeds inside leapt into the wet earth. Before every eye, green shoots shot upward, taller and taller, until palm trees bent heavy with fruit and shade. The diggers knelt, scooping water with their palms, drinking like freed souls. Children lifted dates and laughed. The desert sang with new life. Marwan stumbled back, his canopy collapsing under the growing roots. "Witchcraft!" he shouted, his voice thin now, a shadow of command. "This is sorcery!" Zara stood tall, though her knees trembled. "This is truth, and truth does not bow to shadows." The soldiers, seeing the people drink, dropped their weapons. The workers rose, no longer bowed but straight-backed, their eyes clear. "No more thirst," one said. "No more closed doors," another shouted. The warden's banner of a shut door snapped in the wind, tore and fell. He fled toward the city, but none followed. His name was already fading like ink in the sun. The water flowed steady. The palms stretched taller. Zara knelt, pressing her forehead to the wet earth. Samir splashed beside her, laughing, his small face lit with pride. And then the voice of the keeper returned, carried on the breeze. 3 promises kept. The story is whole. The doors may close now, not in fear, but in rest. Far away on the hill, the palace gates groaned, then gently shut. The sound was not of loss, but of peace. A book finished, a story sung to its last note. That night the city glowed. Water ran into new channels. The poor drank freely. The doors of houses, once locked in suspicion, stayed open with lamps in the windows. People called Zara the listener, the girl with the leaf key. They called Samir the boy with the small cup. But Zara knew they were simply two who had chosen to listen, to walk, to speak. And in the silence that followed, she understood what the keeper had meant. Even magic bends to those who keep promises. That night Zara could not sleep. She sat by the small lamp in her stall, watching the flame dance. Outside, the city streets carried a new sound, laughter mixed with song, the kind of sound that only comes when a burden has been lifted. Samir slept on a rolled carpet beside her, his face peaceful, his hand curled around the empty blue cup. She brushed his hair from his forehead and whispered, "You were braver than kings today." A soft knock tapped at the stall door. Zara opened it cautiously and found old Farid, the spice seller, carrying a pouch that smelled of cardamom and history. "You spoke," he said simply, "and because you did, others will not go thirsty again." "I only said what needed saying," Zara replied. Farid smiled sadly. "Do you think kings lose their crowns all at once? No, they lose them one silence at a time. You gave this city its voice again." He handed her the pouch. Inside lay not spices, but the leaf key, now grown into a small branch with tiny green leaves. "It has changed," she said in wonder. "As you have," Farid answered. "Keep it. The city will need reminders when shadows try to grow again." The next day, people gathered at the palace hill. They expected the doors to stand closed forever. But when Zara and Samir climbed the steps, the gates swung open gently, just wide enough for them alone. The keeper stood within, her form softer now, like the last glow before dawn. "You finished what was left undone," she said. "The story rests, but doors do not stay closed forever. When a new promise is broken, the palace will wake again. Remember, every generation must carry water, open doors, and speak truth." Zara bowed her head. "We will remember." Samir tugged her hand. "Can we come back if the palace calls?" The keeper bent and kissed his forehead like a mother blessing a child. "Yes, but may the day be far, for it means the city is safe." Then her figure dissolved into sand and drifted upward until the palace walls grew quiet and still. From that day, the hill was no longer a place of fear. Children played at its base, telling each other stories of the listener and the boy with the cup. Merchants set stalls along the road, saying trade flourished better near open promises. And whenever the wind blew, people claimed they heard not whispers of kings, but laughter of doors finally at rest. Years later, Zara's tea stall became a meeting place where workers, travelers, and dreamers gathered. She always left one cup free for the weary, fulfilling the first promise. Samir grew strong and clever, often carrying jars of water to those still laboring beyond the walls, keeping the second promise. And together, when greedy officials rose again, they spoke truth in the marketplace, voices steady, keeping the third promise. And so the city of Nur Bazaar thrived, not by gold nor by force, but by promises kept and doors open. The palace, silent but watching, stood as a reminder on the hill, glowing faintly at night like a star that refused to fade. Because true magic was not in lamps or palaces, but in people who chose to listen, to act, and to believe that even the smallest voice could change the ending of a forgotten story.